Good evening, Texas bikers and bikers all across the nation. This is Texas Biker Radio number 403. Tonight is happy hour number 11. And, and my name is Mel Popeye Moss, and my co host, Mel OG Robbins. We are with Sons of Liberty Riders MC, who sponsors this show each and every week, along with a few of our friends. And good evening, OG. How are you doing?
Doing good. Doing good. Just biding my time.
I hear you. Well, there's Ghost Eagle there. How you doing, Ghost Eagle? He's on the chat line. First person on the chat line. Good evening. How are you doing? Oilfield Trash is here. How you doing, buddy? And so, wow, OG. Give a few minutes or a minute or so to allow any others that may be out there that got the message that we had to delay the show last night because of a meeting we had to attend, and we can't talk about what that was about right now. Here at some point, maybe we will be able to get it out there, but we're just not quite ready yet with what has gone on here in Texas over the past weeks and what we see going forward. But we'll have an announcement soon. And of course, there's been things happening here that, just aren't public yet. It's public to the people it's happening to, but it's not widely known what's going on. But with that, everybody, I've got my Corona beer, and because we didn't come on last night, this thing is sat in the ice for 24 hours now, and it is cold. So let me open this thing up. Give me a second. How you doing, Lowrider? How are you doing? Ah, there we go. I got to have a swig, guys. This is cold. Yeah. So, dang, OG, let's talk a little bit of Harley Davidson. Are you ready?
Certainly.
Well, today it was announced that Harley Davidson is going to be falling off the S&P. They do not meet the 400 billion or the $4 billion in sales. I think they call it a $4 billion cap. They didn't reach that, so and it's twice that much is required to stay in the S&P. So they'll be going down to another fund, and so
well, it actually involves more than that too.
Yeah.
I happen to watch the S&P 500 very closely,
Mm-hmm.
and the S&P 500 is comprised of 500 of the top, what's considered the top performing corporations.
Right.
And along with that requirement, the other requirement is they have to perform to other criteria also. And if they don't meet any of the criteria or portions of it, like you said, they are removed.
Yeah.
And another company is brought in.
Exactly. So, I mean, the talk has been on the internet and some of the other other podcast shows about Warren Buffett loaning Harley Davidson $300 billion at 15% interest. That's kind of curious, but hey, Warren Buffett's got the money. I don't know how that helps them to go in debt, but maybe it does. All right.
Well, these are tenuous times for Harley because, basically all Harley has is their motorcycles and their clothing line.
Oh yeah.
And the up and coming generations are not being kind to the motorcycle industry.
Yeah, all of them.
None of them. But fortunately for some of the others, they sell a hell of a lot more stuff than just motorcycles.
Mm-hmm.
And Harley has pursued criteria to meet the European standards for emissions.
Mm-hmm.
And let me explain why. They've elected to do that by going to the Milwaukee 8, which meets that criteria because there is criteria up and coming in the United States that will be that same identical criteria. So rather than being caught at the last minute or the last year or two trying to re-engineer what they have to meet this more stringent criteria, they have now gone to the Milwaukee 8, and that is no cheap venture. The problem is the price tag on the Harleys keeps going up, and somebody in there lost their frickin' mind when they came up with the live wire.
Yes, they did.
I don't know how the hell they think that's ever going to gain popularity. Now, maybe, it sure as hell isn't going to be in yours and my lifetime.
Wow.
Which probably doesn't have that many more years involved. But I can see members of our club that are reasonably young that are never gonna buy into the live wire.
No,
it just isn't gonna happen.
No,
it's a play toy.
It's a novelty. It is a novelty. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can only imagine we're about to take a journey to the southern part of Texas here pretty soon to charter our new chapter. And I can only imagine if we are all riding live wires, we'd have to. We wouldn't make it to San Antonio.
But OG, first of all, we all wouldn't hear each other. We'd be running into each other.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So, Harley Davidson has a hard row to hoe. I quite frankly don't know if they're going to be able to come out of this one. They have the loyalty of the boomers and the original bikers that started the clubs. They had that loyalty for years. The problem is the loyalty itself isn't dying off. The people that are loyal are dying off. Yeah. You're not going to be able to regenerate that. And, if you expect these millennials to be loyal to Harley Davidson, it's not going to happen. Hell, you can't get them out of their basement unless it's to an Antifa event.
Exactly. And wear skinny jeans.
Yeah.
And banana outfits. I saw one the other day.
Yeah. Now, in all fairness, there are some millennials that are prospecting.
Yeah.
And are of a different cut because they came up in a different type of family that understands values and taught them to their children and continue to do that. And they've carried on that heritage. The problem is it's a small percentage of that generation and the subsequent generations that are coming up after the millennials.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, OG, that generation is going to be facing off with these son of a bitches that are out here doing all this crap. Is what's going to happen down the line.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I'm just saying. But hey, look. Do we know who was the Einstein that decided to make an electric motorcycle for Harley Davidson, while there are other similar bikes. I don't want to call them motorcycles, electric bikes out there. The Zero is one of them, and it's a third of the cost. I mean, it's way cheaper. I mean, just it's still just because you throw the name Harley on it, it's still an electric bike.
And what are they? About 40 grand?
I think the low end is 30.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just wasn't a good business decision. I don't believe. Honda. I mean, take a look at it. I think Harley did a good thing by bringing out these. If you go into a Harley dealership right now, you see these small electric bicycles. Now, the only thing I hate about that is the fact that they are electric. So they're going that direction. And so, but still, it gets a young kid on a bike. Because right now, kids aren't even riding bicycles. They're being shuffled from one place to the other. It's not like when we were kids, where we rode our bikes everywhere and all over the neighborhoods by ourselves. Now everybody's so worried about their kids and their kids' safety, they're not letting them out of their sight. They're not getting on bicycles and getting out there and being adventurous. But Honda is bringing out what they call I think they call it a Honda Mini. Little bitty thing used to be like, you remember when the Hondas first came out and they had those little trail 50s? It looks almost like that, like a retro. But I think that's a good idea. I mean, one of my little first motorcycles when I was 8, my dad threw me on. It wasn't one of those little Indians, but it was just like them. It was just like it. And that's where, well, even before that, I fell in love with motorcycles when my dad sat me on the tank of his Harley, of his dual glide, and would let me hang on to the handlebars and eventually let me steer into the throttle. So, I mean, that there are things that make us what we are in our community. And that was it for me. And I haven't stopped since. So it looks like to me Harley Davidson needs to cultivate what they've got going. And they're not going to go away because hell, they'll, if nothing else, they'll be selling T-shirts forever.
Well, there's even trouble in paradise with the Milwaukee 8.
Yeah.
When they first came out with it, I mean, you couldn't find anybody that was unhappy with the Milwaukee 8 that they bought. They were in love with the torque, all kinds of factors. Now I'm hearing that they've got oil pump problems. So it's been out there long enough. I guess some things are starting to come unhinged. I'm sure it'll be taken care of, but they're now starting to run into problems where the Milwaukee 8 is starting to piss some people off.
Yeah. I hear you. But what's that due to? Not enough testing? Not enough quality control?
That's typically it. I mean, who knows who they've contracted out to make the oil pump? It's still advertised as an all-American bike, but you keep hearing rumors that certain components are definitely not being manufactured in the United States.
Yeah.
It's all being put together here. So kudos to that, with the exception that, and it's hard to fault them,
Yeah.
as they open up new markets, they are building plants in those areas
Mhm.
where they're going to be marketing motorcycles. I think to some degree that's kind of smart business. It's not like they're manufacturing motorcycles there and bringing them back to the United States to sell them.
Right. Not yet.
No, not yet. But, if they start pulling that crap, I'm sure there will be some severe ramifications.
Yeah, you're talking about a revolution.
Yep.
But, a lot of times corporate can't help themselves. And as we see right now, corporations are playing a big part in what's going on out there.
Well, I spent 28 years in the corporate world, and I certainly did my fair share of push-ups in the boardroom over my regional P&L.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest problems you have with a corporation that goes public is there are certain representations that are made to the brokers at the beginning of the year as to what your performance is going to be by end of first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, yada, yada, yada. And there's all kinds of games they can play in accounting, or when you're making acquisitions, they can make it look like when you're spending money doing stuff within an acquisition, like for instance, you buy a company and you need to go out and change a lot of the equipment in the existing company's customer base that you bought, because you've got a recurring revenue stream coming out of that equipment that they're paying on a monthly or annual basis. But some of it's old and needs to be replaced because it's going to suck you dry servicing it.
Yeah.
So you order up all this new equipment, you go out and you replace it. Well, you and I and anyone normal would say that's an expense. That's costing money.
Yeah.
That is not money we're putting in the bank. Well, under general accounting practices, which they call GAAP, you can put that up as profit.
Mm-hmm.
That is that's a financial investment or a gain. So that's all put up as profit. So a lot of these companies that are going out and buying all these places, they're spending hordes of money. It's all being booked as profit. Now, interestingly enough, I did do some time with Ameritech, and any other company I was ever with on the sales teams I ran, it's, when you get a contract, get some cash.
Yeah.
Because cash flow is king. Well, Ameritech tells us in a general management meeting, we don't want your salespeople bringing in cash.
Yeah.
We have too much cash.
Yeah.
Discourage the cash. To this day, that still spins my mind. But the phone companies out there, I don't know if it's still prevalent today, but they are so cash rich, they don't know what the hell to do with all the money.
I hear you.
They're like South American drug dealers.
Exactly.
They don't know where the hell to bury it.
Exactly. They got it in the walls.
Yeah.
Hey, OG, let me answer some of the guys that have been posting on the live chat.
Okay.
They were talking about the Harley Davidson T-shirts and the cost of them. Let me tell you guys, I was over it, and I'm going to mention it too because I'm pissed about it. I bought a T-shirt at Longhorn Harley Davidson, and I should have taken a closer look at it because when I got it home, it was the thinnest piece of crap. And the only thing good about it was I bought it off the discount rack. You know, something that wasn't selling. And
Yeah.
now I know why. But the best T-shirts I bought, and if you come to Texas, is out west, Lubbock, Texas, West Harley Davidson. They have great T-shirts. Great T-shirts.
They're
And
not
so
cheap.
they're not cheap. No, they're not cheap. But at least they're good. So be careful what you buy when you go into any of these dealerships, any of them. And make sure that if you're paying the premium dollars for whatever it is you're getting, that you're getting a premium product and not some piece of crap. So that, but OG, should I tell them about my first Harley Davidson that I bought back in the 70s?
Yeah.
1973, guys. 1973. I was going to, matter of fact, it was Dallas Harley Davidson off of Harry Hines. Yep. I went in there and I put down my money to buy a new Sportster. Oh, yeah. And so I put down my money for the new Sportster. I'm going to come back and pick it up that afternoon. They told me they had to do some service and stuff like that. Okay, I go off to work and I get off early and I come back over there. And what do you think has happened while I was gone? Because Harley Davidson back then, I guess, was owned by AMF. And so what they did, they took the carburetor off my bike and used it on a customer's bike that needed a carburetor. If you don't think I was mad, it was many years before I bought a Harley Davidson again. I was so pissed that they would rob a part off a new bike to put on some customer's bike that had come in. Maybe he's a good customer. I don't know. Maybe he bought 100 motorcycles from them. So, would I do the same thing? Hell no. It doesn't matter how good a customer is. He doesn't jump in front of a customer that's buying a new motorcycle. But you know what? Things happen. And I got over it and I bought a Harley Davidson years later. I'll tell you, want to know what I did buy, guys? Because I got so damn mad. I went and bought me a Kawasaki Green Streak. 500cc triple cylinder. And it was a bat out of hell. A bat out of hell, it was. And I eventually turned that thing into a drag bike. So that's the end of that story, guys. I got hundreds of them. But I digress. OG, are you ready to get to the shit? What's going on today?
I got my shovel out.
I'm telling you, let's shovel it out. The cops in Atlanta who are now facing murder charges over the murder of what's his name? His name is Rashard Brooks. Everybody knows the story. I don't have to repeat it. And the former Atlanta cop, Garrett Roth, he's 27 years old, has been charged with 11 counts of felony murder. 11, OG. You might think one would be enough, huh? But 11? You're talking about piling on. And the fact there's been no investigation. And let me tell you, these guys, OG, what's going to happen months from now, when these guys are not found guilty of murder?
Oh, well, I can tell you the first thing that's going to happen in court, because I had a discussion today with someone that's in kind of the know, and this district attorney, first we should set the stage with the fact that this DA is up for re-election this year.
Yeah, he is.
Okay? So, let the obvious flow from there. Now, the fact that they've charged the two cops with multiple counts of murder. He even made the statement that the one cop was going to be a state witness against the other. And today had the embarrassing situation of that law enforcement officer's attorney appearing on national television saying, no, hell no, that is not happening. He is not going to be a witness for the state. Yes, he will be testifying in court because he was there. He's a witness, but he is not a witness for the state. Nonetheless, this district attorney, a few weeks back, has been captured on videotape. Apparently, there was another trial going on with some other officers, and a taser gun was used. And he made the statement, and it was captured on this video, that a taser is a lethal weapon.
Oh, yeah.
Now, today, he is saying a taser is not a lethal weapon. Well, can you imagine what's going to happen in court when that's the first thing the defense attorneys are going to drag in there?
Oh, they're going to have his lunch.
They are going to tear this guy Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the interesting point here that you made is what the hell's going to happen, because now they've set the public anticipation that these officers are going to be roasted, sent to prison for probably the rest of their lives because they committed some heinous crime. Well, I mean, the first problem here is you point a weapon at a cop, you better be prepared to die. That is what was referred to today as a suicide pact.
Yeah.
If you point a weapon at a cop, you better pray to God you're able to take him out, his partner, and any of the others that are there, because the minute you point that weapon, you just put out, you opened hunting season. You can't do that to a cop. You know, the biggest mistake all these people are making today is they're not complying. It just like bikers, okay? We talk about profiling in bikers,
yes.
And as pissed off as we get, we still, when a biker gets pulled over, he complies because he knows if you don't comply, you're going to get yourself killed, thrown in prison, whatever. But as long as you comply, you got a pretty fair shot at getting out of there.
Mm-hmm.
When these guys are not convicted, and I can't believe they will be, let alone we'll talk a little bit about this deal in Minneapolis too. These guys in Atlanta, definitely, there's no way in hell I can see them ever being convicted. Because the guy pointed a weapon. He resisted arrest. He pointed a weapon at him. He did all the things that just wrote a suicide note for himself. The community, we have all the elements of a huge uprising.
Yeah, we do.
Not only in that area, in other areas of the country, because they're going to be primed, sitting there on the edge of their seat, ready to jump if this doesn't go the way they want it to go.
And you know, OG, this is what they're wanting.
That's right.
This is what they're wanting. These revolutionaries out there, people that think they're revolutionaries or whatever the hell they are. And OG, I still can't believe that there has been no arrest of these pukes. As far as I know, there's zero of these people that are out there burning and looting and instigating all this crap. It's like, go ahead.
That's because all this bullshit's going down in liberal-run cities.
There you go. But I promise you, the FBI, the Homeland Security, these folks that's supposed to be watching over the country, what the hell are they? What is their job now? What is their freaking job? Are they part of it? I mean, come on, guys. Because it looks to me as if they're part of it, just like the coronavirus shit and everything else. It's all designed. Every bit of it is designed. It looks to me as if it's designed to collapse the country. So, I don't know. Comment, OG. Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, again, it's the liberal faction in this country that is trying to drive us to socialism and communism and the one world government. And trust me, I do not wear an aluminum hat, but it is so obvious what is going on as you watch this situation deteriorate, and everyone sits there and their stomach churns over situations like Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
You watch all this burning and looting going on TV, just out of control. And you've got these mayors and governors backing off the police departments, not calling in the National Guard, not requesting federal assistance. And that's, you watch that, and it's pretty obvious what it's doing, and it's in our face.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it is in our face. And I'm telling you, everyone out there that's listening better be prepared for the biggest shootout coming, because they hate our guts.
Yeah.
They hate bikers. They hate veterans. They hate conservatives. And they're going to want to come after us. And we've watched them as they start arming themselves. That's what's going on in Seattle. There's more weapons appearing in Seattle. You're seeing more of these pukes coming out with baseball bats with spikes in them. Now they're using skateboards.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them are carrying guns. Trust me, there were a lot of people shot and killed or severely wounded in Minneapolis that were not being reported by the media.
Matter of fact is, let's have a Minneapolis report.
Okay.
You ready?
Okay.
Just listen to this, guys. Listen up, you guys on the chat line.
I am ready.
There we go.
First of all, I was having a discussion, and I just mentioned the fact that, hey, South Minneapolis must look a lot like Beirut. You guys probably have a mini Detroit there.
Yeah.
And what was relayed to me was that there are flashbacks occurring as you drive around that area of the city of being deployed to places like Djibouti, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, places that have been bombed out and just totally destroyed. Trash laying everywhere. Nothing's being fixed or repaired. There are actually five. There were 5 precincts in Minneapolis. The third was totally destroyed, and the third actually is the biggest precinct in Minneapolis. It's comprised of about 20 square miles. And what's happened is there's no home for the troops that take care of the third precinct, so they have parked them in the basement of the convention center. Now, while that might sound reasonably nice. And incidentally, these guys were told that food would be furnished for them too while they're there. But let me digress just a little bit before I continue that point. The search has been on for property to rebuild the 3rd Precinct headquarters. Now, the city commission turned down a deal with the federal government. They were going to get a plot of land for $1 that the feds would give them so they could build their precinct. City commission turned it down because they felt it was too close to Fort Snelling. Now, what the hell that's all about, I don't know. But that was turned down. Nothing else seems to have worked out, and the general feeling is the city will never rebuild the 3rd Precinct, and they're going to try to absorb it with the remaining 4 precincts, which I don't know how that's going to work. At any rate, in the meantime, these guys, and I'm going to say the skeletal crew that's working, because it is pretty much of a skeletal crew. You've got a lot of guys that haven't returned to work. Some guys have retired early. And said, screw this, who needs it? But nonetheless, they're reporting to the bowels of the convention center in Minneapolis. Now, the area that they have been allotted is the room next to where they keep all the trash dumpsters. So it's full of flies and it smells like a sewer. The food they bring them was a bunch of overdone, looked like week-old hot dogs floating around in a bunch of shit, covered in flies. And when they voiced their displeasure, obviously, of what the hell that was, because they said, well, I guess we'll just have a bag of chips and some pop, was, well, you know, you could certainly bring your own food if you want to. And that's when they properly went off on them and said, you know, a lot of us came back because you made certain representations that we were going to be back and we were going to be taken care of. And once again, you have not followed through. Nonetheless, let me tell you how it's swinging in Minneapolis. Some of these guys are out on patrol. They get calls. They may roll by, but they'll radio in that everything's okay, but they keep going because they are not going to get involved in any crap that's going to be controversial.
Right.
And I'll give you a couple of circumstances. There was a vehicle accident that happened literally in front of some individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Some gangbanger got out of his crumpled car, looked at him and said, and kind of looked at him like, well, are you going to do something? And he was told, hey, dude, you need to call 911. And they kept rolling because they just didn't want to get involved, you know. And apparently, I guess a vehicle accident would need more of a social worker now than it would an armed law enforcement officer. Another call, there was a young man reported brandishing a firearm in a group of people. When he was observed, there was a group walking down the sidewalk. One individual did have a gun tucked into his waistband by his belly. They observed that. They called it in as all is clear, and they kept rolling because they said, you know, what the hell are we supposed to do? Have a confrontation here? And they kept going. The truth of the matter is, right now, and, you know, a lot of that town's getting what it deserves, and that is no law enforcement. These people keep pushing, they keep abusing law enforcement. And hey, I'm not saying what was done to Floyd was right. There's certainly a lot of questions that need to be answered, and maybe there is justice that needs to be served. But as far as I know, the complete story has not been told on that yet. The investigation has not been completed. And as a matter of fact, there's a lot of video that has yet to be shown. Don't forget, every one of those officers had a video cam attached to their body. They had camcorders or dash cams in the squad cars. There was some closed circuit TV on the street.
Mm-hmm.
None of that's been made public. And I think there's some reason for that. We'll just need to see what happens when this all goes to court. But, you know, it may not go down the way a lot of people think it's going to go down. What's pushing the issue right now is what they used to refer to. I took a class once in criminal law, and they used to refer to something called public outcry. Now, public outcry can be a many splendored thing. It can drive a verdict in court, or it can drive charges because you've got the public all worked up about something. All the politicians get upset and say, my God, we need to do something to appease this anger that's out there. So they do things real quick. We're going to have to see what happens here, but we have a potential tinderbox going on.
Yeah, we do.
With what happened in Minneapolis when that goes to court.
Yeah.
The problem here is, you know, now you've got this national movement going on about defund the police department. Well, you know, I'll be the first to say, as bikers, we certainly have some arguments with law enforcement relative to criminal gang database abuse and abuse of being profiled.
Yeah.
We know that's going on, and that's an issue that needs to be addressed, and we think it can be addressed legislatively. But we, you know, by and large, while we're not exactly, you know, buddy with law enforcement, we are not anti-law enforcement. Any civilized human being understands that you cannot run a country or a community based on anarchy. We can't have the Lord of the Flies and have a civilization. You have to have laws, and you have to have people that enforce the laws. What we want is good law enforcement. And there are a lot of officers out there that are damn good officers. We've run into them. We've chatted with them. They've been good to us. We have no bone to pick with well into the high 90 percentile of law enforcement. But there are some departments and some individuals out there that have a tendency to do the things that they're not supposed to do. They get a little heavy-handed, and that's what needs to be addressed. But by and large, right now, with all these idiots out there saying defund the police department, are they frickin' insane? Do they have any idea what this country would be like without law enforcement? Some of them are starting to get a little taste of it because of what's going on in places like Minneapolis and Atlanta, where the officers are not responding. And we keep hearing stories about crap that's going on in Seattle. And I think by and large, a lot of departments ought to be doing that right now. Just let the public see what the hell happens when they're not there to protect and serve.
They're going to be screaming.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Hey.
In the meantime, we best make sure we're well prepared to deal with the element that's going to take advantage of law enforcement not being there, because trust me, they will.
Yeah. And OG, let me address a couple of things I see going on the chat line here.
Okay.
One of the guys was talking about qualified immunity, talking about getting rid of qualified immunity for cops. Let me tell you guys why that won't happen. And this is the truth of it all. That won't happen because all your politicians have it also. They're not going to get rid of qualified immunity for any government worker at any level. They're not going to do it because they know sooner or later people like us would get out there and say, well, hey, I want to get rid of qualified immunity for the damn Congress. Because of mismanagement of the whole freaking country. They're not spending our tax dollars well. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. We got a whole list of stuff we can throw out there. I mean, who told Barack Obama he could load up an airplane full of money and give it to our enemy who's killing our troops? I didn't have any say so in that. Did you guys? Did you guys have any say so in that? What protects them is qualified immunity. And they're not going to give it up. They're not going to give it up. Go ahead, OG.
Well, I was going to say, let me add a couple of elements there. First of all, what drives qualified immunity, and we all have to look to ourselves about this, is we are a very extremely litigious society.
Yes.
People sue people for no reason at all.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the lawsuits out there are damn frivolous. We're dealing with a civilization of pansies now that get offended very easily, and the first thing they want to do is sue. So you can't have people in a job that have to worry the minute they go to work that they can get sued for anything, anytime. Now, the one thing a lot of people aren't aware of when it comes to qualified immunity is they're protected only if they have not broken the law. If you break the law, that immunity goes away. Now, the sticky point here is you have to prove that they broke the law. But once you do that, all bets are off, and then immunity goes away. So this immunity situation is not as bad as it seems. The problem is nobody's had the stomach or sometimes the wherewithal to go after them with the proof that they did break the law. But Popeye's right. Immunity is not going to go away for a lot of reasons.
Right. And OG, just let me point out to everybody, we've been doing this for years now. For years. And we pointed out many years ago that the things that police were doing, and we're not talking about racism. We're talking about cops, their attitudes, many of the bullies that are out there, and there are too many of them within their ranks. People that enjoy that badge and enjoy the authority they have over people, and in particular, bikers. Now, people, even bikers that come in to Texas from out of state, when they are stopped and when they are what the police here call investigating you, you comply. You comply. You don't grab their service weapon. You don't run from them. You don't do any of this shit because they will kill you. And that doesn't matter if you're black, white, or whoever. They will do it. And 9 times out of 10, they're not going to go to jail. They're not going to be convicted of murder because there is a system here in Texas. Even though in many cases, it's not fair. It's not fair what's going on. And we see it, and we see the bullying, and we see the pleasure in the voices of the people that are doing the bullying. Things like, I'm doing it because I can. I'm going to take you to jail for what you're wearing. I'm going to take you to jail because you're over the white line. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. If you're coming to my town, I'm going to take you to jail if you fail to put on a turn signal. This kind of crap, it goes on and on and on. And we pointed out many, many, many years ago that this is going to come back to haunt them, especially in the black community. Because even though the murders of black people by police officers is down, because everything that's going on right now is based on lies. Because there are more ethnic groups that are killed by cops than blacks. So that's the truth of it. And black people in Texas, as I drive around, as I look around to the neighborhoods here, some of the most exclusive neighborhoods, there are plenty of blacks. They're moving on up. But there are certain neighborhoods where, whether it's the schools, whether it's the lack of parenting, whatever it is, that have gone to hell. And that includes the neighborhood I grew up in. There's gunfire over there every night. There's crap going on every night. It's drug infested. So yeah, we got problems. But it's not the problems people are rioting over. It's just not. But much of what we're seeing is because of that attitude, because of that bullying, because of the courts. And let me point to you, the courts are crooked as hell. And many times the courts have the police officers' backs. Is it right every time? No. I mean, we've seen this time and time again. Hell, over here in Fort Worth, they sent a guy to jail. When they had the trial, they put up a fence around the damn courthouse as if somebody was coming to attack them, to influence the damn jury, and they sent him to prison for 40 years. He didn't fire a shot. Somehow he commanded this thing with ESP. So I mean, it's just crap like that goes again and again and again. We have deputies out here, in Parker County, where the sheriff says, well, my deputies just lack tact. That's not a damn excuse. That's poor training. That's poor attitudes. And that's by bully cops against bikers. So, I mean, it's what we see going on. Much of it is the result of years of that kind of attitude, of years of that kind of training. And like OG pointed out, there are many, 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 many good cops. But man, let me tell you, the ranks is more than 1%, baby. It's more than 1%. We've seen too much of it. And we understand what's going on and why. But man, let me tell you, the politicians are involved in this thing knee deep. And there are people that are funding these people. You know, the one fireman here in the Dallas area that said, hey, look, we should be finding the people that supplied the bricks because bricks were being supplied by the pallet load. New bricks by the pallet load to throw at police officers. That's bullshit. That whoever did that should be in jail now. And we should know about who it was. And for some reason, that hasn't happened. Go ahead, OG.
The media will never cover that.
No.
The one thing I think we can look forward to is that because of what happened in Minneapolis and what's happened in Atlanta and other areas, is that there will be legislation passed, laws passed, things are going to change within the law enforcement community.
Yeah.
Because they've been slapped down pretty hard.
Yeah.
So, things are going to change.
Yeah,
I
they
think
are.
we have to be ever vigilant with this profiling stuff. We have to keep recording. We need the ammunition more now than ever that we can present to the legislators and say, look what they're doing to us. So we need those videos. We need reports from you guys. If you get stopped and you're mishandled, we need to know about it because we are gathering the database and we are about to start talking with the legislators about getting sponsors for these bills so we can get this taken care of. The timing is right. The opportunity is there for us.
Yep.
But we need your help.
We have a saying here in Texas, guys, ride, record, and report. If you get pulled over, video your exchange with a police officer or with law enforcement, any of them. Video it. It's your right to do so, especially here in Texas. And it should be in every state. Ride, record, and report. If you don't know who to send it to us. Send it to us. You can get a hold of us on Facebook at Sons of Liberty Riders MC. You can message me, Butcher Moss, on Facebook. You can send it to our email, gunbarreltx@gmail.com. It's that simple. And you guys on the chat line, if I don't catch it, if you say something there kind of derogatory, Google hides it. I guess that's Google. YouTube is Google owned, right? So
yep.
Yeah. So they block it, and if I don't catch it, I can't unhide it. So because I get wound up about what I'm saying, and I fail to read the chat, what's going on in chat. But Cop Blocker's got a 360-degree helmet cam. I need to know which one that is, Cop Blocker. But yeah, film this stuff. If you got something going on, it's like years ago, I was at a rally with Breitbart in Houston. And I had a great conversation with him. We became friends. And at that rally, he held up a cell phone, showing it to everybody. Hey, everybody's a reporter. Everybody is. These pieces of crap that come into our living rooms every night saying to you they're the news. They're not the news. They're propagandists is what they are. They want to come in their suits and act like they're your friend. They're not your friend. They're not your damn friend. Turn that crap off. Even your local news. If you want to watch the weather, that's fine. But they practice news by omission. They don't tell you the whole truth of what went down. They give you a little snippet. That's like one time I was filming an event. There's a camera guy from the local news next to me. I said, how much is this going to make the news tonight, what you're filming? He said, maybe 20, 30 seconds. I said, yeah, I'll film 2 hours and it'll be on our website. Everybody can see the whole thing. Everybody can see the whole thing. And while we got all these entities, these big corporations like Google and YouTube and everybody else, if we happen to disappear, you can find us at texasbikerradio.org. We have our own platform. We don't necessarily need this, but you know what? It's a good platform. Do we agree with all the censorship? No. Everybody should have their time. Everybody should be able to speak their mind. Right, OG?
Absolutely. First Amendment all the way.
That's right. That's right. So OG, we've gone 10 minutes over our allotted time.
Well, let me add something real quick, because the folks in Gonzales, Texas, some folks in Gonzales, Texas are asking for some help.
Okay.
This kind of lends itself to what happened at the Alamo here not too long ago.
Yeah.
With the protesters down there, had they been allowed to take over, would have destroyed a lot of stuff within the Alamo.
Yeah.
Now, Gonzales is near and dear because that's the original come and take it location.
Yeah.
Now, the BLM will be holding a rally in Gonzales, Texas on Friday, June 19th. As you know, there are several historical monuments and artifacts in Gonzales that pertain to both the Texas Revolution and the Civil War. Locals and leaders inside Gonzales, Texas have reached out to This Is Texas Freedom Force, asking us to please come help protect these monuments just like we did the Alamo. We are extremely concerned that the BLM will try to damage, vandalize these historical monuments, and the locals are extremely ticked off. This Is Texas Freedom Force will be hosting the event. Come and defend it in Gonzales, Texas. We will meet at our rally point, Texas Heroes Square, located at 354 to 354 St. Louis Street, Gonzales, Texas, at 4 p.m. Our mission is to surround and protect these monuments from any destruction. So any of you down in the Gonzales area, and that would stretch from Houston over to San Antonio, if you can be there to help these folks out, I'm sure a few iron horses would be very helpful.
And OG, let me point out, back in the days of when the BLM is kind of taking the place of Acorn, except for they're on steroids.
Yeah.
And one of the things about it is the way that we handled them was when we'd show up at a rally, we were 3 times as large. We had 3 times the people, even though our people were were in their 50s and 60s. But we overwhelmed them. And this is what we have to do. We have to unite everybody, help pass the word about Gonzales, Texas. And if you guys from out of state, look up Gonzales, Texas, and learn the history there. And for you guys that may be thinking of coming to Texas, by all means do. You're thinking about moving here like OG did years ago.
Yeah, hey.
Bring conservative politics with you. Go ahead, OG.
I'm more than 7 years now. I ought to be considered a Texan by now.
Yeah, well, we've all got to know, and I'm a Texan. Matter of fact, I'm going to ask the oil field trash. I think, or Torque. I think we've been mispronouncing the name of our newest chapter of this city. And I think Geezer pointed out to me today it was Bernie, Texas.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of embarrassed about that. I was born and raised here. So that would at least at least from the early age, I could pronounce Waxahachie, Texas.
Yeah.
But
You got me on that one.
anyway, guys. Anyway, guys. Hey, look, spread the word. Tell everybody we're heading towards 6,000 subscribers. And as we go along here, let me tell you, we get 10, 20,000 subscribers. Let me tell you, we've got the makings of a movement nationwide. And those kind of numbers gives us power. And we don't necessarily have to meet, but we have to do things in unified. We can make things happen. And with that, everybody, we're going to say good night. And we're going to thank you guys on the chat line. We'll see you next Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, where we go live at Corona Hour number 12. Oh, let me say one thing. Fauci, I think he's part of the deep state. I really do. Son of a bitch can't make up his mind. And I think he has misguided the president, the whole country. With that, everybody, have a great evening and ride safe. Ride safe.
Be safe.
Bye-bye.
Good night.